Okay, let's make our JavaScript module a little more useful. Right now, all we have is toast and success, and all we get when we click on, or when those are called, is a right to the console. So back over in our page, I have the console window open, I click on this button, and it writes there. That's great. Well, I actually want to do something more useful than that. So I'm going to get rid of this console log, and I'm going to come up here and change this attention success to attention toast, which is what I want to work on first. So I want to use my JavaScript module, which I have stored in a variable called attention, to call the function toast. So it's going to go in here. And of course, I need to know how toasts work in SweetAlert. So let's go into here and let's find toast. There's an example here somewhere. There it is. So this is an example that will actually run a toast, just like that. Okay. So I'm going to copy all of this, and I will paste it right in the toast function. Now, the problem is, this is all hard-coded. This will always give me the icon success, and it will always give me the message signed in successfully, whatever it is. So I need to pass parameters to it, and I do that by specifying a parameter right here, C. And then I have to define what that's going to be. So let me get down here and create a new constant. And this one is not going to be named yet. I'm going to create it, and then I'm going to store the value in C. Okay? So C is passed to us, and then C will be overwritten by things that are in here if they're not specified or expanded. So the very first thing I'm going to need is something called a message, and that is going to default to nothing. So if you don't specify the value message in your JavaScript object that you pass to the function, then you get an empty string. And then I want an icon, which will be equal to, by default, success. So if you don't specify that, we'll choose the icon success, and then I want to put it somewhere on the screen. And the way that this works, let me just get it in here, P-O-S-I-T-I-O-N is equal to top end. So the way that SweetAlert actually specifies where the toast is going to go is using top, center, and bottom. So you can have top start, which is the top left-hand corner, top center, which is the middle of the page at the top of your browser window, and top end, which is where I want it by default, the upper right-hand corner. Then you can have just center or bottom start, bottom end, that sort of thing. So I want it to be in the top end by default. Now I've specified these, but nowhere here have I used them. In fact, down here, I actually specified them on the fire for the icon and the message, so I'm going to get rid of those. But notice that although I called mine message, it's called title. So let's put those in first before we delete them. So we want message, which is actually called title for SweetAlert, to be MSG. I want this value to be used here. Position, I don't want to specify, I don't want to hard code it. I'll allow that to be customized. So I'll call it position. And then the last one is icon, which I want to be icon, which means I don't need them here, which means I can just fire that. So I can even put this back up in this line just to make it a little cleaner. And let's see if we've got everything. So we have our message, our icon, our position, our message, our position, our icon. Everything else should be just great. So now I should be able to come up here where I call it and pass in the necessary values that I want. And the only thing I'm going to specify to start with is in curly braces is I'm going to specify my message. And I'll call it hello world. And save it. Now I go back over to my browser window. I reload that. And hopefully, if we did everything right, we get hello world up there. Perfect. Now notice it chose the icon checkmark and put it in the top left, even though I didn't specify it. That's because these defaults are set. So if I come up here now and add a second value in here, comma, the name of the value, which is icon, colon, and then the name of the icon I want, which is error, because it takes a string, so I'll pass in a string. So I save that, go back over, reload it, and now it should be exactly the same, except I should get the error icon. And I do. Perfect. So that's easy enough. Well, that's one example. Now let's do the success one. So I'll get rid of this. I'll go back over to my documentation for SweetAlert, which is over here, and find under examples one that does what I want. That looks about right. I'll put a success marker there, and I might get rid of this, but I'm going to go with that. So I will copy this example, which is this one. Yeah, this one. And I'll copy that. and I will paste it in here. And again, I want to pass a parameter to this, and I need to define what those parameters are going to be and defaults. So const equals C. And my constants are going to be it's going to be success, so I'm always going to have a success icon. I don't want that to be overwritten. I do want a message, so MSG is equal to nothing by default, and title, which is equal to nothing by default, and text. Not text. That's really, footer, that's the other one. Footer, which is going to be equal to nothing by default. So if you don't specify anything, you're going to get an empty dialog, which means I need to replace this bit with my variable for footer, this bit with my variable which I'm calling MSG because it's fast to type and easy to remember that it's a message, the title, which I'll make a title, and I want to leave the icon as success. And everything else should be just the same. Good. All right, let's see if this works. So we need to come up here, and instead of calling toast, we will call success. And that's going to have a message and not an icon. It's not specified. I could leave it there. It wouldn't do anything. But let's just go hello world. Save that. Go back here, reload the page, and hope that everything works. Nope, wrong button. There it is, hello world, perfect. And I could even put a footer in there if I wanted to, but I'm not going to bother. You would just put another parameter here, footer, colon, and then in quotation marks, whatever you want that to be. So we have toast, we have success. Let's go with error. And error should be really easy to do because all I'm doing is copying success, pasting it here, calling it error, and changing the icon to error. And then I can just duplicate this line and have error. Whenever you call error, go to the internal function error. Save. So come up here and we'll call an error. Instead of saying hello world, we'll say oops. And we'll call the function error. And that should be all we have to do. We can reload this page and we get an error. Perfect. Okay, so that is how modules work. And again, as I said earlier, you can or usually do store modules in their own file and then import them into your web page. And we'll get to that eventually. But for right now, we just want to get our feet wet with functions and see how they work and see why they're good, why modules are good. So if you think it through, when I'm calling a toast, all of this code is getting executed. But I'm doing that merely by calling one line up here if I'm calling toast. And that makes things ever so much simpler. The same thing for success modals and the same thing for error modals. So modules are our friends. In the next lecture, what we're going to do is take the page or the button over here, which is under, let me see here, close this so I can see my menu again, and go to rooms. This button. When I click on this, I want to pop up a Suite Alert modal that has a form in it. And the contents of that form will be the same thing that we see right here. Arrival date and departure date with that nice pop-up calendar and a search button that allows us to search and find out whether or not a room is available. And we'll do that in the next lecture.